This video is brought to you by Ting. Welcome to like the fourth or fifth consecutive video of me wearing an Adidas track top. Anyway, budget, or the term budget, is loosely thrown around the tech world. You know, to some people it's 400, to some people it's 500, 600, 750, 1,000, 1,500. You get what I mean. It's very subjective. But to a lot of people, it's not a lot of money. And that's why today I want to go over my experience with a very cheap iPhone that I've acquired. It's an iPhone 6s. I got this for $115 off a swap. And get this, if I did my math right, this costs 3.5 times less than the iPhone SE 2020. So that kind of puts things into perspective. This is very budget oriented. And today I'm going to go over my experience with it. I restored this from a backup from my iPhone 11 and I've been using it. And I want to talk about this device's viability with you today. But before we continue, I'd really appreciate it if you'd leave a like on this video, comment if you have any questions, suggestions, or opinions, as the YouTube algorithm likes that, and will help push my content to more people. And if you are a recurring viewer, go ahead and click the bell icon and enable all notifications. It does help the channel out a lot. So while the back of the 6S is not crafted out of glass, I have to say this phone still feels premium and comfortable, especially with these ergonomic curved edges. It's no mistake that Apple has stuck with this design for so long. Since 2014, they even carried it into 2020 with the iPhone SE 2020 model. And this also was the last device to have a clickable real home button. And that's also something I kind of miss. It's sort of like a nostalgia factor. And speaking of which, this phone also features Touch ID, like the iPhone SE 2, and by the way, it is second generation. This was the first phone to have that, and it's super snappy even to this day. And this is especially convenient in 2020, and I never thought I'd get to say this because, you know, we're all wearing masks, so while Face ID is lacking, Touch ID is still golden, I gotta say. And let's touch on display real quick here. Like the iPhone SE 2020, it's 4.7 inches in size, and while it lacks True Tone, it's plenty bright and sharp enough for most people, and the colors are still excellent all these years later. And you know, I never really mentioned this, but you have to remember that this is a 4G LTE enabled phone, and while that's been a thing for a while, I think it's important to say in a world of 5G phones, and while 5G is being rolled out, for most of us not living in big cities and such, we won't be seeing that feature for a while. So acquiring a 5G phone definitely isn't a priority, especially if you are on a budget. And kind of going off the legacy home button aspect, you know, wait, there's more. We have a headphone jack with this device. It was the last iPhone to feature one, and though we live in a very wireless world now thanks to Apple and other companies jumping on board that ship, this is very convenient, especially if you are an audiophile or if you have a 3.5mm jack with your favorite pair of headphones. And on the topic of audio, though this device has a single down-firing speaker, and although it's not the most impressive thing you'll ever hear, especially compared to newer iPhones with stereo setups, it gets the job done and it does it pretty well. And I'll do a quick audio test for you here. So yeah, it's a bit quieter, of course, than newer setups, but again, it will do the job when it comes to basic media consumption and music listening. And of course, once again, you have a headphone jack for listening, you know, without the speaker. And then on the back here, we're greeted with a 12 megapixel back-facing camera capable of 4K 30 video. It was the first iPhone able to shoot that, and the video looks pretty decent, even though this phone lacks, you know, the newest image processing and optical image stabilization. But even so, I gotta tell you, for being nearly a 5-year-old phone, the image quality holds up very nicely with video and photo, especially for this very budget-oriented device. And speaking of budget-oriented, today's video sponsor, Ting, is a perfect network for people looking to save money. A family of 4, for example, pays on average just $17.75 per line. With Ting, you only pay for what you use, which makes so much sense as we're all cooped up indoors with consistent Wi-Fi access. You can either choose a new device from their wide selection or bring your own. And if you happen to bring your own, you can get $25 of service credit if you use my link noah.ting.com when you switch. They have no contracts, commitments, and have award-winning customer service available via phone, chat, email, social media, and even Discord, where you can talk to a real live human. You can also use their bill estimator tool to get an idea of what you'd be paying. So treat your wallet to Ting and save money on your cell service today by visiting noah.ting.com, linked in the video description. And to finish up with camera here, we have a pretty decent front-facing camera as well. I'm not going to show my face because this is a horrible angle. But we got a 5 megapixel front-facing camera here that takes pretty decent selfies. Not the best, mind you, because, you know, front-facing cameras have come a long way since this phone. However, one decent feature that comes with this device is like a front-facing flash, and there's no actual front-facing flash, but if you remember, Apple made a big deal about this. The entire display will illuminate to put more light on your face, which of course will result in better, sharper looking pictures with less noise. But of course, there's going to be a caveat with a $115 iPhone, and you probably guessed right, it has to do with battery. And while it isn't abominable, not only was this phone not the best in battery life when it existed, you know, in 2015, but if you buy a used phone, you have to understand that the battery is going to be a bit degraded. So not only do you get, you know, inferior battery life, but you get a degraded battery as well. So if you're fine with plugging in throughout the day, maybe like, I don't know, once or twice, depending on how heavy of a user you are, then you're fine. But if you need a phone to be long lasting, all throughout the day, I recommend getting a new phone if it bothers you that much, or replacing the battery if you are a little bit more adventurous. And honestly, I'm considering doing that with a couple of the used iPhones that I have to see just how difficult of a process that is. But even so, if you are a light to moderate user, you should be able to get through the day no problem, especially now because we're all at home anyways. It's not like anybody's going out of the house right now, and if you are, it's going to be going to work and home anyways, so this isn't the biggest deal as of 2020. And again, that's something I never thought I'd have to say. But of course, there is a more important aspect of this phone that I have saved for last to go over, and that is general performance. And am I going to sit here and pretend like this phone is like super fast? No, and the benchmarks don't lie. I can open up Geekbench here and look at the history. Let me see here. Here we are, May 16th. Single core scores are 550, multi-core scores are 912, so there's definitely a progression from the A9 to the A13, for example. I mean, just massive performance gains with the newer iPhones. But even so, the beauty with iPhone is that the software and the hardware are made to work with each other. So despite this chip's age, it pushes the iOS 13 experience very smoothly. This phone isn't exactly buttery smooth, but it doesn't make me angry either. Like, apps take a moment to open up sometimes, but once they are open, they're open, and the 2 gigs of RAM facilitates this. It's a pretty decent experience. You know, you just have to be aware that with this older processor, app loading times are just going to be a little bit longer. Not unbearably longer though, if you know what I mean. And on top of all this, the animations, especially the important ones, are very smooth, like Control Center. There's no stuttering or lagging here. Even with all these apps installed, the app switcher is just fine. And this is a telltale sign if an iPhone is struggling or thriving. In the past, older iPhones would have very laggy, like choppy, like little animations where you'd see the Control Center go like and just stuff like that, if you know what I mean. You probably have had an older iPhone in your life, but this is not the case even with the A9 in 2020. And let's quickly touch on gaming, and no, this is not going to be a device that you want to, you know, like run the highest end games on. Of course, you're going to see some stuttering here and there, but like Minecraft Pocket Edition is running beautifully with the A9, as you can see here. You know, classic games like Doodle Jump and Candy Crush and just other basic 2D or 3D titles are going to run on here. This phone is still a beast for that. This goes to show how great Apple Silicon is, even all these years later. So yeah, if you are a light gamer, this phone can handle pretty much anything you throw at it, even in 2020. So all in all, for $115, am I impressed or satisfied with what I get here? Hell yeah, I am, and in my opinion, this phone does at least 70% of what the iPhone SE 2020 can do, and for 3.5 times less than it costs. So that's super impressive, I have to say. And if you're looking for a newer iPhone and you don't have a lot of money, you know, you got bills to pay, kids to feed, especially during this pandemic, this is definitely a solid option. Once again, especially if you replace the battery or find one without a lot of battery degradation. And that about wraps things up here. I hope this video helped you out. Once again, check out noah.ting.com if you are interested in saving a lot of money with your device. I know somebody personally who used that network, and no joke, it is a great alternative for people who don't want to fork out a bunch of cash to AT&T and Sprint and Verizon, etc. I'd really appreciate it if you leave a like on this video, comment if you have any questions, suggestions, or opinions, and of course, subscribe for more content like this. And as always, I'm Noah, and I will catch you all in the next one. And since this video is almost 10 minutes long, I thought I would fill the remaining 40 seconds with the video idea that I have and a question for you guys. I do impressions privately, and I don't know if I'm really good or not, but long story short, I practice them, and I've been trying to impersonate particular tech YouTubers and people in the tech industry, along with, movie characters and stuff. But I just wanted to know if you guys would want to see some sort of impressions video of people in the tech world, especially on YouTube. As of right now, I think I can do a pretty decent Tim Cook and Johnny Ive impression, and I can impersonate a couple YouTubers like Detroit Borg. He's a local guy, and we have a similar accent, so that should work out just fine, and other popular tech YouTubers. So let me know if you'd like to see that. I think it'd be kind of a fun video, and if there's any creators or people in the tech space that you'd like me to attempt to impersonate. Anyway, peace.